talk a little bit of LSU football. Offensive line, thoughts on where you see guys working, freshmen that could be potential breakout players. What have you seen for a week and a half of spring ball?
Yeah, I mean, early on, fans are not excited about the unit they're rolling out there in the ones, but as you and I have seen, they are rotating. I mean, a lot of guys out there, man. I severely doubt the unit of all returning players that we're seeing out there will even be the unit we see for the spring open practice, I guess is what we're going to call it now. Boy, I hope they take Coach Prime's lead and do a cross practice with another team soon, because that's going to be way more entertaining if they line that up. But that being said, they're rotating a ton of guys in and out of there. Solomon Thomas and Carius Kern are two guys who, as true freshmen, stand out as physically intimidating, and they look the part of true freshmen that were ready to plug and play. That being said, they have a lot of players, and it's going to be, I think a lot of these position battles are going to be tightly contested between guys like Bo Bordelon and Solomon Thomas. You know, which one of them? I mean, talking about a guy who's been there 3 years versus a guy who just got there, but one seems to have more upside. There's just a lot of battles like that. And then, you know, Braylon Moore at the center position. Maybe he's not quite as big as some of the other guys, but he certainly seems to be the more polished true center out there. I'd be surprised if he doesn't work his way into a starting spot. So I think they have the guys ready for offensive line. They just really need to work on who are the right ones for the right spots and work on chemistry with one another.
Do you believe the running game is going to look different next year in terms of what they're trying to accomplish?
Well, hopefully by different, it's effective this year. I mean, you couldn't get all that much worse than last year. I think a big part of it is the running back room is going to be improved. You're going to have less injuries. You know, you're not going to have a banged up I say hopefully you're not going to have a banged up Caden Durham this year, but the offensive line, hopefully, you know, I think last year they were very good pass blockers, but a lot of them were one-dimensional linemen just based on what the results you saw. So hopefully there's a little more nastiness and grittiness, but I don't think systematically they're going to be changing I don't think we're going to see a bunch of stuff under center where they're lining up with a fullback ready to ground and pound. I think it's going to be a similar approach to the running game, just very different personnel and hopefully healthy personnel.
I mean, we did see a little bit under center in the first practice that we saw, and then we have seen them running a lot of 12 personnel with Bauer Sharp and Tradez Green on the field at the same time. Do you expect to see some two tight end sets?
Well, we saw a lot of that last fall camp, didn't we, Deb? You know, I mean, that's nothing new in practice that we see. In fact, I remember goal line formations, we saw a whole unit, and it's like, well, they didn't really pan out. Now, I do think the 12 personnel they're rolling with, I think they're going to be using that a lot. I think they really like what they've got in Tradez and Bauer Sharp, both as threats. But, I mean, make no mistake, they're going to mix in some four-wide sets. I mean, they have a deep, talented receiver room and a quarterback ready to use these guys. So I wouldn't say that 12 is all they're going to run, but there's going to be a good bit of that. I just hope that they can use that formation to, you know, give you some more physicality in the run game, because that's really what they lacked a year ago.
Well, let's play hypotheticals. It's spring. So last year LSU was the best third down offense in the conference. They were like fourth or fifth in total offense. They were first in completions and right up there in passing. They were just missing the running game and the red zone component from being a really complete offense, but they've still got a lot of the pieces from that offense. Can they be? They're going to be? Can you win significantly with a pass first offense? And then if not, like what they were last in the conference in rushing. What do they need to be a complete enough team? Sixth, eighth, 10th?
I don't know about 6, 8. I don't know where they need to rank, but I do know this. Okay. That offense was just so close to being great at times last year. I think inconsistencies at the receiver spot held you back. I think turnovers from Nussmeier, particularly, you know, the multi-turnover game like against Texas A&M, that held you back, right? But you hit for most of the year, you hit the nail on the head. They got tons of yardage, and then they would get in the red zone and just start shooting themselves in the foot, you know? And I think that goes hand in hand with having a consistent running game. I can't tell you how much being able to rely on getting 3 yards consistently, that just helps your team so much. And last year, you really couldn't rely on that. I would, if I had to guess, I would probably say 1 out of 3 runs got you less than 3 yards last year, which is just not ideal. You really need to be converting that 3 yards at a high level, and that makes your offense move with more consistency, because it's just that's all it was last year. It's just lack of consistency in that running game. And if you can fix that, look, I think the rest of it will work itself out if you can have a balanced and effective approach in your offense. But that being said, yes, you can be pass first. I mean, 2019, that was a pass first offense, but when Clyde got the ball, you know what? Clyde did big things in the running game. He ran for 1,400 yards that year. So absolutely, yes.
What do you think Harlem Berry's role? Actually, let me ask it a different way. If you were in charge, what would you like to see Harlem Berry's role in the offense coming up?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good backs that you got to consider with him here. You got to think about how does Caden Durham play into to the role? Is Caleb Jackson going to be physically back up? His acceleration last year just really held him back, and of course, we all thought he was due for a breakout season, and the opposite happened. He got relegated to, a role player last year, if even that. But I think Caden Durham will be your number one. I think he's more ready for inside the tackles. But in terms of Harlem Berry, I would use him in third down situations. I would use him as a change of pace guy. He is nimble and light on his feet, although he probably doesn't have the top end speed that Caden Durham has. He's a longer strider, and particularly he's really good receiving out of the backfield too as well. So I would use him more of a third down back, and I would use Caden Durham as your primary back. And frankly, I'd use Caden Durham as your physical back. When you need to, get short yardage, go Caden Durham, because he's small, but he's built muscly. He's got that Maurice Jones-Drew energy to him where he'll lower a shoulder and go into a guy. Whereas I think Harlem Berry probably physically isn't there yet where he's lowering a shoulder and running guys over yet.
Yeah, Caden Durham, I don't think if you looked at him on the roster, you would think a guy that can run between the tackles. But he's a strong dude when he gets in there, and he showed that. I think especially against South Carolina last year when he kind of broke out, and they had a heck of a time trying to tackle him. Last part on the offense here, and we'll let you go. We appreciate a little bit of time. Garrett Nussmeier, talking about winning national championships earlier this week. How do you feel about his mental state here and kind of what you expect from him in his last year?
I mean, look, man, interviews and what to say and mindset and work ethic, Nussmeier has always checked off those boxes, man. I mean, he's a coach's son. He's going to have a good leadership mentality. I mean, look, that's never been the concern for me. It wasn't concerned last year. I mean, when was the last time someone came to you and was like, man, Nussmeier, I just don't know if he's ready to lead this team yet. Nussmeier, man, I just don't know if he's, really checked in and dialed in. No, I mean, he's a coach's son, and he's going to have that mindset, and that's going to be a big advantage for your football team. So, look, I think he's got the right. And, look, sometimes it's good to say some confident things like that. A lot of people gave Joe Burrow some smack when, at media days, he's out there saying, don't be surprised when we hang 40, 50, and 60 points in games. And guess what he did in his first 3 games? He scored 45, 55, and 65 points. So, I love that little air of confidence, not what's the word
Cockiness.
for it? Not being cocky and arrogant, I guess is what I'm going for, which you do see some guys around the country who go straight into that arrogance where they're, disrespecting other people, and I like what I'm seeing out of Nuss.
How do you feel about the comparison to Joe Burrow's 5th year and to Jaden Daniels' 5th year when people look at Garrett Nussmeier's 5th year?
I don't know that it's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
I think that we've seen 2 of the best 5th-year breakouts that we've ever seen from players in any, situation. It's just wild, and to expect that out of Nussmeier is probably not fair. But how about this one? Zach Mettenberger in 2013, he went from 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions with 2,600 yards, and He threw for 22 and 8 the next year. Had a really good year. That offense was really sharp for him. So a jump like that, let's aim for that. Let's aim. And he was probably better than Mettenberger even was in 2013 last year, probably.
Oh, he definitely was.
4,000 yards. So, but that jump is what I'm getting at. Like, let's see. Okay, you threw 26 touchdowns, and you threw 4,000 yards. Let's see if we can go for 4,500 and work those touchdowns up to maybe 35, 40, and at the same time cut those interceptions back. Let's cut those interceptions in half. That's the kind of jump I think is realistic or reasonable to look for Nussmeier. I don't think if you're looking for him to have 65 touchdowns and 6,000 yards like Joe did, we're probably all going to be disappointed because there's one person in college in Power 5 history to ever do that.
Is that number right for Mettenberger? He threw 22 touchdowns his last year. Are you confident in that?
22 and 8, and I think he had 2,950 something yards.
Just think about what we went through there from a span of 6 years, where we went from thinking Mettenberger was slinging it all over the yard for 22 touchdowns, and 6 years later, Burrow threw 60. That's hard for me to even grasp mentally. That's where we went in 6 years.
Yeah, well, you think about this. In 2010, Jordan Jefferson threw for 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? So when you go from that to 22 and 8, man, you feel like you're in a Lamborghini all of a sudden. And
that was a rocket ship of some sort. That was beyond Earth.
It felt like SpaceX out there. It really did.
Have a good weekend, Preston. We appreciate it.
All right, see you soon, Hunt.
All right, Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. All your spring football coverage, they got you covered over there at TigerBait.